Hey everybody, Drew Dinkmeyer of DailyRoto.com here with my Week 4 lineup review. Last week we tackled some cash game action on DraftKings. This week we'll switch it back over to Fanduel with a couple GPP entries I made. I played relatively light in Week 4, had some friends in town, was going to the Giants Redskins game, and as a result scaled back my action quite a bit, just threw in some high stakes tournament lineups. We'll look at two lineups from the Monster in which I cashed just one of 5 lineups, kind of break the week, and honestly, it was a week that I wasn't paying as much attention to lineup construction as I normally would with friends in town, and the lineups kind of show that. So I'll walk through kind of my disappointment looking back at the week on some of the decisions I made, and ultimately why, even though the structure of the lineups I think makes sense, the player selection within them didn't make a lot of sense. So let's take a look at these two lineups. These are top 2 performing lineups, so these are the best of what I had out there, which is not really impressive. But all the lineups that I put together in general were meant to be some sort of game stack situation. The exception was Baltimore-Cleveland, where I was trying to play a Lamar Marquise Brown stack that I thought could go off even if Cleveland struggled offensively, which was something that I was concerned about. In retrospect, obviously, not adding more correlation in this game, especially when it could have been through Nick Chubb or Jarvis Landry and really opened up the upside of Lamar kind of chasing, would have been a much, much better play, and something that I'm a little bit disappointed in myself for the decision-making process there. But the thing I want to highlight in general is that even though I got Lamar at ownership that I felt pretty good about, playing Marquise Brown at 30%, probably not the right guy to stack him with, especially on a slate where there's a lot of tight end chalk. You see here, Travis Kelce was 33%, Will Dissly was 15%. That's a big missed opportunity. That pairing should have been Mark Andrews. Now, you could say, Marquise Brown left a lot of air yards on the field. He had big opportunities, and he's the guy that can really break things open. Sure, but when he's 30% owned, a player like that shouldn't be your primary target for the stack. And so that was a really big miss by me, one that if I was thinking through it a little bit more, might have realized that, hey, the likelier low-owned player of the group is Mark Andrews, who has a little bit weaker price tag and has more direct competition at the position than Marquise Brown. So 2 mistakes in that lineup right off the bat. One, I think I should have had a Cleveland player coming back. Our projections probably would have made it a Nick Chubb or an Odell Beckham. We weren't as high on Landry. But if it was Chubb, obviously, then I'm live for some stuff. And then also, it should have been Mark Andrews over Marquise Brown. I think those were the 2 big misses there for me. The rest of the lineup, if you look, I had Christian McCaffrey here, added in some correlation with McCaffrey with Will Fuller. I did like Will Fuller. Of these 2 lineups, actually, Will Fuller, one of the few plays that I feel good about in retrospect, looking at the percentage owned. Will Fuller, a deep play threat, a pretty good price tag. A matchup that I was okay with. I know Carolina in general doesn't give up a lot of plays down the field, but an ownership level that I was pretty comfortable with. So mixed in some correlation there. I always wanted to have exposure to the Chargers. I pretty much, in these hand-built lineups, will often try to take exposure and divvy it up across the lineups to have somebody in those lineups that has exposure against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are just giving up so many fantasy points per game across the board. So in this lineup, it was the Chargers. In this lineup, it was Keenan Allen. Another lineup, it would have been Austin Eckler. Another lineup, Dontrell Inman. Trying to make sure I get a little bit of exposure there. And then there was some other correlation here, Travis Kelce and Kerryon Johnson. So that's what I meant when I think the structure of this lineup made sense, and that I built in little pockets of correlation. I would have preferred to have one extra Cleveland player kind of in this side. I think would have made more sense. But the individual ownership percentages here, you look, it's just a lot of chalk, really, and it's going to be tough to take down the tournament with this much chalk. I really needed Will Fuller to go off, I needed Kerryon Johnson to go off, and then I needed to hit the defense or Christian Kirk, because everybody else that's going off is probably carrying up the leaderboard with me. The second lineup was Seattle-Arizona game stack, hoping that Arizona could get out in front early and unlock that big passing potential that we saw from Russell Wilson the previous week against the New Orleans Saints. But unfortunately, again, a lot of chalk here. These teams were very popular. This is a Wilson, Lockett, Dissly double stack brought back with Kirk and David Johnson. So full-on 5-man game stack. I was comfortable doing that because I do think these Arizona games have the potential to play at really fast paces. But if you look at the other pieces that I chose to surround this stack with, it's just chalk everywhere except defense. And so, Seattle-Arizona wasn't going to be a contrarian game on the whole, so it was going to put me in kind of a difficult position here. So Not really satisfied with the way that this lineup came together as well. Again, I liked, Christian McCaffrey was going to have a high end back here. Fournette, I thought might be a little bit less owned, but his price on FanDuel was really compelling, so I'm not surprised in high stakes to see pretty good ownership there. Keenan Allen, I knew was going to be really chalky. This was probably not the lineup to use Keenan Allen. This was probably a lineup maybe to use a Dontrell Inman and free up some salary somewhere else. I did think the Falcons' defense was a really good tournament play. They were obviously terrible, so the result wasn't good. But I thought it was a good tournament play at 4% ownership, relatively cheap price tag at home, facing a Tennessee team that had taken a ton of sacks early in the season with Marcus Mariota, something that has been consistent in his career. So Will Fuller and the Falcons' defense, the two tournament plays that I feel okay about. Lineup construction on the whole, some misses on that Baltimore-Cleveland game where I think I could have tightened things up. The Seattle-Arizona game I think made sense to game stack, but I think the surrounding pieces that I utilized with it were not particularly sharp. So not a great week for me and for my lineups. I'll readily admit when I don't build the best lineups, and that was certainly the case this week. The important thing is that we can highlight them, and you guys can take advantage of learning the thought process of how you should be building lineups and how I should have built these lineups. So I probably needed to mix in a little bit more contrarian elements on both of these lineups, given some of the high-end ownership wide receivers that I was chasing here in the stacks with Tyler Lockett and Marquise Brown. So that's it for me this week. I will be back for a Week 5 review. We'll probably switch it back to DraftKings. Not sure if we'll do a cash or a GPP review just yet, but hopefully you're finding these lineup reviews helpful. If you want to check out more of our information, our premium projections, content, and analysis, check out DailyRoto.com. Go premium. Use the promo code LAUNCH for 10% off.